Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Sparkin over Broncos, the show where we spark conversation about our Denver Broncos. I am your host, Gage Madrid. We have some massive news, Broncos country, as the Las Vegas Raiders have agreed to terms with the Green Bay Packers to trade for two-time All-Pro receiver Davante Adams. The AFC West has become an arms race, and the Raiders become the latest team to seek after a big-time weapon, and they land one in Davante Adams. According to reports, the relationship between Davante and the Packers had soured, and according to NFL insider Ian Rappaport, it became pretty clear that the bridge had been burned and Adams was never going to play another down for the Green Bay Packers. And an interesting nugget is that apparently Aaron Rodgers knew this and still decided to return to the Green Bay Packers. Once Adams was franchise tagged, he informed the Packers that he would not play under the tag, so that's when the trade talk intensified. The Packers will receive the 22nd and 53rd overall pick in the 2022 draft in exchange for Davante Adams. The Raiders will also be giving Adams a new 5-year, $141.25 million contract, which averages out to $28.25 million a year, making Adams the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, an absolute blockbuster. In this video, we will discuss how the Davante Adams acquisition affects the Denver Broncos' Super Bowl aspirations, as well as how this shakes up the landscape of the AFC West. But before we get into that, a couple of housekeeping matters to attend to. We are trying to grow this community and include as many people in the conversation as possible, so I do ask a couple of favors from you. A like on this video would be greatly appreciated. It would really help us out. If you'd like to add to the conversation, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to interact with you. And speaking of interaction, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for more coverage of our Denver Broncos as well as the NFL in general. And with that out of the way, let's get into the rest of the video. Davante Adams is one of, if not the best receiver in football right now. His route running is among the best to ever play the position. The way he can create separation at the line of scrimmage is absolutely lethal for opposing defenses. The Las Vegas Raiders, of course, have had a glaring need at wide receiver for some time now. Following everything that went down with Henry Ruggs last season, the top of the Raiders receiving core last year consisted of Hunter Renfrow, who's a very underrated slot receiver, Bryan Edwards, and Zay Jones. After losing their top receiving threat in tight end Darren Waller to injury in the latter half of last season, the Raiders' passing game struggled to bring consistent production. It was very clear that the Raiders needed to bring in another target for Derek Carr, and they brought in someone that he is very familiar with. If you didn't already know, Carr and Adams were teammates at Fresno State University, where they tore up the Mountain West Conference for 2 seasons together. They also came into the NFL together in 2014, so Carr and Adams are already very familiar with each other. Adams has said that he would like to play with Carr again, and apparently he purchased a home in Las Vegas in the same neighborhood as Derek Carr. After the Adams trade, as well as the Raiders' other splash move in signing Chandler Jones, the question remains, how are these moves going to impact the Broncos' Super Bowl aspirations? It feels like the Russell Wilson trade started a domino effect in the AFC West, with each team making splash moves almost in an effort to one-up each other. The Chargers, of course, trading for Khalil Mack, re-signing Mike Williams, and signing Sebastian Joseph Day and J.C. Jackson in free agency. And I'm going to make a video discussing the Chargers' moves in depth, but obviously this Davante Adams move just happened and that took away my attention from that. As far as the Chiefs are concerned, they haven't really made a ton of crazy moves, but they did bring in stud safety Justin Reed in free agency from the Houston Texans to fill the void lost by Tyrann Mathieu. The Raiders knew that they needed to get in on the action and fight fire with fire, which is the only way that you are going to win in this ultra-competitive division, let alone the ultra-competitive AFC. Despite the big-time acquisitions in Adams and Chandler Jones, the Raiders' roster still has a couple of glaring weaknesses. Mainly their offensive line and their secondary, and I feel that the Broncos' strengths match up really well with those weaknesses. We all know that the Broncos have a plethora of weapons in Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Albert Okwuegbunam, Javonte Williams, and so on. The Raiders' secondary is going to really struggle having to handle all of these players. As far as their offensive line is concerned, outside of their left tackle Colton Miller, the Raiders' offensive line has multiple question marks. Their former first-round pick, Alex Leatherwood, has struggled at both the right guard and right tackle positions. They were also forced to start a rookie last season at John Simpson at left guard. Andre James did improve at center as the season went on, but he is still a question mark. The point is, the Raiders have the worst offensive line in the entire AFC West, and you really can't argue that. The Broncos figure to have a dominant pass rush in 2022, with Bradley Chubb finally getting healthy opposite the newly signed Randy Gregory, along with Draymond Jones and DJ Jones on the interior. If the Raiders cannot figure it out along the offensive line, I really feel that they are going to struggle against teams like the Chargers and the Broncos, who have stout defensive lines and secondaries who can hold their own. The Raiders' offense is going to have to predicate itself on running the football with Josh Jacobs, as well as scheming up creative ways to get Davante Adams the football. I'm curious how new Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels will approach this. Speaking of McDaniels, that is another weakness for the Raiders. They have arguably the worst head coach in the division. Although Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett is a largely unproven commodity, there is a lot to like based on what we have seen so far. The last time Josh McDaniels was a head coach, however, well, Broncos country will remember how well that went. This time around, McDaniels is going to have to drastically improve the player relations side of his game because you can't deny the value in the X's and O's aspect of his game. Unless he can improve that aspect of his game, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If your coaching sucks, your team isn't going to win. At the end of the day, despite these moves, I still feel that the Raiders are the fourth best team in the division. I feel that the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs have overall better rosters and, most importantly, better quarterbacks. And that is coming from one of the bigger Derek Carr apologists in Broncos country. I think that Derek Carr gets a ton of unjust hate, and I feel that he proved his value as a leader last season, being able to rally the troops and lead the Raiders to the playoffs after all of the adversity and turmoil that they faced last season. So those are my initial thoughts on Davante Adams to Las Vegas. Definitely a blockbuster move, there is no denying that. I'm very curious what Green Bay's plan is moving forward, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But anyway, despite the magnitude of the move, I feel that the Raiders roster still has a long way to go to be on the same level as their AFC West rival. While I do feel the Raiders are going to be formidable next season, the Broncos are still the better team, and frankly, I feel that we have bigger obstacles in front of us than the Raiders if we want to hoist the Lombardi Trophy next February. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, Broncos Country. I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL. And for now, this has been another episode of Sparkin Over Broncos, the show where we spark conversation about our Denver Broncos. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.